The circumstances surrounding Renish's tragic encounter illuminate the intricate challenges of emergency situations and the often precarious misinterpretation of perceived threats. Amidst these complexities, her injuries from the car accident heightened her vulnerability and illustrated the fragility of life. Theodore Wafer's assertion that the shooting was an accident stands in stark contrast to the evidence meticulously gathered by detectives, prompting a deeper investigation into the homeowner's actions that night. In this light, questions of accountability emerge, compelling us to ponder the responsibility we hold for our actions. This case ignites vital discussions surrounding racial bias in self-defense laws, particularly as we examine how victims are perceived through the lens of race. The societal implications of such incidents resonate deeply, urging us to reflect on the values we uphold and the justice we seek. The initial surge of adrenaline often triggers a fight-or-flight reaction, shaping how individuals perceive threats and respond under stress. This physiological response is not just instinctual, it's a common thread that runs through our shared humanity during traumatic events. Navigating the police interrogation process can be an intimidating experience, leaving suspects grappling with the weight of understanding their rights and the gravity of their circumstances. Many feel the pressing need for legal counsel, yet their ability to articulate this need may falter amid the stress. Detectives skillfully employ a variety of techniques during interrogations to elicit confessions, often manipulating the suspect's perception of their environment. This manipulation can lead individuals to mistakenly perceive officers as allies, rather than recognizing them as potential adversaries. The area, known for its high crime rate, contributes to an individual's heightened sense of threat. Residents live with the constant awareness that they could become victims, a reality that affects their daily lives and choices. As persistent noises echoed at the front door, fear surged within him, solidifying his belief that someone might intrude. This escalating anxiety cascaded through his mind, amplifying his reactions in a moment that felt charged with danger. The individual's body language, especially his crossed arms, portrayed defensiveness and an instinctive attempt to shield himself during questioning. This physical response served as a mirror to his emotional turmoil, highlighting the profound connection between mind and body. The discussion surrounding gun placement unveils inconsistencies in Theodore's narrative, suggesting potential deception regarding his intentions during the shooting. This vital insight becomes crucial for unraveling the truth behind that fateful night. Eyewitness accounts often flutter with unreliability due to the traumatic nature of such events, leading to distorted memories. This phenomenon deeply impacts the overall accuracy of testimonies within legal contexts, reminding us of the fallibility of human perception. Michigan's Castle Doctrine provides a framework that allows for the use of deadly force against intruders under specified circumstances. This law plays a pivotal role in evaluating Theodore's actions that night, forging a path through legal complexities. Reference to the Castle Doctrine emerges as a possible defense, presenting the intricate legal complexities surrounding self-defense cases. Gaining a thorough understanding of this doctrine is essential for assessing the legitimacy of such claims in our pursuit of justice. The detective's probing questions unveiled the suspect's uncertainty regarding the status of the shotgun, highlighting the chaotic nature of the circumstances. This uncertainty acts as a critical factor that can significantly influence the trajectory of the investigation. Separately, a police investigation uncovered details surrounding a DUI incident involving a disoriented woman, potentially linked to Renish's tragic death. This connection adds another layer, which may shape the legal proceedings that unfold. Renish's disorientation and the unfolding timeline of events evoke pressing questions about accountability and responsibility in perilous situations. The unclear gap between her accident and Theodore's 911 call underscores the complexity of the human experience amidst chaos. The legal arguments surrounding Theodore's self-defense claim shed light on the nuanced intricacies of Michigan's Castle Doctrine. Ultimately, the court determined there was insufficient justification for his fear during the incident, marking a significant moment in legal discourse. The Michigan Supreme Court's decision to vacate Theodore's manslaughter conviction underscores the necessity of legal consistency. The resentencing not only reaffirms his original sentence but also serves as a solemn reminder of the weight of our actions and the justice we strive to achieve.
On one cold and rainy night, 19-year-old Renisha McBride crashed her car on a Michigan street before hazily pulling herself from the wreck to look for help. Renisha was dealing with a concussion and a severe injury to her hand, But that wasn't all, and more would be uncovered about her mental state later. Despite this, Renisha made her way towards a nearby house and began banging on their door. Unfortunately, when the owner of the house finally opened the door, Renisha found herself facing the end of a shotgun and the end of her life. On November 2nd, 2013, the Dearborn Heights Police Department received a 911 call just after 4:30 a.m. from a man named Theodore Wafer.
I just shot somebody on my front porch with a shotgun, banging on my door.
After ensuring that Theodore wasn't a threat, the police questioned him on the night's events.
What happened here?
A consistent knocking on the door, and I'm trying to look through the windows, but every time I look through the windows in the door, it's banging somewhere else, so I opened up the door, kind of like, who is this? I got discharged. I didn't know there was a round in there. I don't get it. Who's knocking on your door at 4:30 in the morning? Bang, bang, bang. Somebody wanting in.
While Theodore may have claimed the whole incident was just a terrible accident, certain aspects of his story just weren't adding up, and detectives were determined to discover if they may actually be dealing with a cold-blooded killer.
Homeowner says there was somebody pounding on the door. He opened the door and like to say who the heck's out here, and his gun discharged and shot this black female in the head. She's rescue isn't here yet, but I'm pretty sure she's DOA.
According to the officers on the scene, the gunshot wound so severely damaged Renisha's head above her jaw that she was pronounced dead on arrival. Theodore, still in a state of shock, was placed into a police cruiser while the scene was secured and documented.
Not really, I mean.
What's that, sir?
I said that, I don't know,
Sit tight, man. See what we can figure out here.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
When Theodore first woke up to Renisha banging on his door, he may have believed there was potentially a dangerous force trying to get into his home. His body then may have gone into fight or flight and started to prepare for a potential threat by releasing adrenaline. This heightened state doesn't last for very long, and now that he's in the police cruiser, there's no possible threat against him anymore. With enough cursory information gathered, the police bring Theodore back to the station for questioning, and it isn't long before the cracks in his story begin to show.
Why don't we just start out by, I know you've told officers at the scene, but I need you to tell me now. Just give me the scenario of what happened tonight. In your own words.
Well, I don't really know how these proceedings work. I mean, am I being charged?
No.
No, sir. Should I have a lawyer present? That would be
entirely up to you.
I mean, this is a very serious matter. What just happened, I believe.
Well, it is a serious matter to the young woman that's blamed in court. We have to do a thorough investigation, and
Am I allowed back into my home now? I mean,
when the officers are done with the scene processing and when the ME removes the body, yes.
See, this is so.
Theodore is very nervous and can be heard asking if he needs a lawyer present. If he did want a lawyer, this is an ineffective attempt at invoking his Miranda rights, as a request for an attorney must be clear and unequivocal. The officer is also being somewhat manipulative here, as he suggests that talking to him is no different than talking to the officers on the scene. While that might make sense at first, this is not the case. The primary job of the first responders is to secure the scene and gather basic information. During the interrogation, however, the detective will be probing much deeper and gathering information about Theodore's possible guilt. Currently, Theodore appears to be looking at the officer as a neutral party who can offer him support and guidance. However, it's important to remember the detective's ultimate goal in an interrogation is to secure a confession.
You made a statement to the guys at the scene.
Yeah, I heard noises, and it startled me. What these noises were. These banging, prying noises. First on the side of the house, and then front of the house, back to the side of the house, and front of the house.
Given the time of day, he may have assumed the person had bad intentions, especially since Dearborn Heights is known for its high crime rate, with the average resident having a 1 in 55 chance of being a victim of a violent or property crime. To compare, the national average violent crime rate in 2021 in the United States hovered around 400 cases per 100,000 of the population.
Well, looking out the peephole, I can't see this person, I can't see that, what's going on inside. Every time I look out one door, the noise is coming to another one, or the other side of the house.
I mean, at this point, are you getting frightened? Is your heart racing? What's going on?
Yes, I have no idea what's happening. It was getting louder. I thought at any time somebody was coming through the door or a window. It was getting violent.
Where did you...
Persistent.
Okay.
Especially on the front door. Very persistent.
Theodore specifically states that he thought someone was going to come in through his door or window. This further displays his belief that there was an immediate threat to him that would justify Renisha's shooting. The defensive tone Theodore takes is also reflected in his body language. With his arms crossed in front of his chest, he's creating a barrier between himself and the detective. As the ramifications of his actions become more and more apparent, Theodore becomes insistent on defending his choices.
How were you holding the gun when it discharged? I mean, tell me.
With both hands.
Did you ever raise it?
No, it's a pistol grip, so you just have to lift it up. So open the door with one hand, and when I placed my other hand, just like that, she went off. I didn't expect it.
Theodore may be trying to lessen his responsibility in Renisha's death by removing himself from the action. Saying it went off versus I pulled the trigger puts distance between him and the action and blames the gun rather than Theodore himself.
Okay, how high were you holding the gun when it went off?
Waist, and it was at an angle. I was, as far as I can remember.
Do you think that when you were holding the gun, it was on an angle like this? Could it have been like this?
If I'm opening the door, I have it. If I open the door,
okay,
that quick. It's a pistol grip.
Here, the first cracks in Theodore's story start to show. He claims to have been holding the gun at waist height. However, when taking both Theodore's height and Renisha's height into consideration, he would have had to have been holding the gun at chest height, pointed straight out, in order to shoot Renisha in the head. This discussion about the gun placement is vital for the case. Holding the gun at his waist could mean that he was just reacting to the potential threat, and more likely it really was an accident. While holding it higher, at his chest height, it means that he could have been consciously aiming it, possibly with the intent to shoot. Based on what the detective has seen, he knows that Theodore can't be telling the truth about the way he was holding the gun. While it's entirely possible that Theodore is being deceptive in order to make the shooting seem more accidental, it's not unusual for individuals who are involved with a traumatic event to distinctly remember some parts, while other parts are fuzzy. This is one of the reasons that eyewitness reports are never as accurate as we think they should be. According to Michigan's Castle Doctrine, you're allowed to use deadly force on someone who's breaking into your home if it's necessary to prevent great bodily harm to yourself. Based on Theodore's own account of the night, by the time he grabbed his shotgun and decided he'd had enough, he wasn't in any immediate objective danger. This, alongside the fact that he opened the door up to the danger with the intention of dealing with it, could potentially negate the Castle Doctrine as a valid defense.
I don't even know. I did not look at the body. I didn't stand over it and see where the wound was. I immediately put down the weapon right there on the hallway or, the entry to the front door and looked for my phone. First call here, Dearborn Heights. We're talking boom. And boom.
As he prepares to wrap up the interview, the detective brings someone else in to help ask one final question.
You have, where we take your shotgun shell casing?
We took your Mossberg. There was a spent shell casing in the shotgun, and you had your green shotgun case. So we just tossed it in that and took the gun with it. There was one shell casing, so what? There was just one in it all the time, or what?
Yes, like I was just trying to explain, I couldn't remember if there was one in it or not. I kept my shells in a separate closet, so I got a little paranoid a few weeks back, got paintballed, so I maybe that's what I loaded and put it in. I mean, I don't think I mentioned that to you, but I mean, that's what I put one in there or something like that, but I did not realize there was one in there, no.
Following Theodore's interview, the police spent quite some time digging through every aspect of the case to make sure there was no crucial detail left out. During this investigation, they found out some intriguing details regarding the hours leading up to Renisha's death. According to police records, a 911 call was placed just before 1 a.m. to report a no-injury accident where a woman who was driving under the influence had been speeding down the street and struck a parked car. Although the woman driving had clearly been disoriented and possibly confused when she got out of the car, she had left on foot and wandered away from the scene of the crime. Police didn't arrive on scene until they received a call stating that the driver had come back to the scene. Unfortunately, by the time cops and EMS responded, she was already gone again. This driver was Renisha McBride, and had anyone been able to stop her from wandering off in her delirious and drunken state, she may never have ended up on Theodore Wafer's front porch. On the flip side, some say Renisha would have never ended up on Theodore's porch if she hadn't been drinking and driving either. You'll notice that was a 3-hour difference between the time that the 911 call was placed about the car accident around 1 a.m. and Theodore's call to 911 at 4:30. To this day, it's unclear where Renisha was during this period of time, but her family believes she was disoriented from her head injury and seeking help. Theodore eventually received charges for murder in the second degree and manslaughter, as well as a felony firearm charge. While Theodore may have claimed that his gun accidentally misfired during his initial interview, this claim actually changed by the time he got to court. Instead, he and his lawyer were insisting that Theodore intentionally fired out of self-defense because he was scared that Renisha was trying to break in. Despite Michigan's castle doctrine, the judge ultimately ruled that nothing Renisha did was intense enough to justify Theodore being legitimately scared for his life. In the end, Theodore was found guilty on all charges on September 3, 2014, and received 15 to 30 years for his second-degree murder charge, 7 to 15 years for the manslaughter charge, and finally, a 2-year sentence for the felony firearm charge, with all of these sentences served concurrently. While Michigan may not have the death penalty, Theodore's lawyer argued that the judge had basically given the then 55-year-old man a death sentence, as he's likely to spend the rest of his life paying for his actions. Just when it seemed that Theodore's case was officially put to rest, he made an appeal in 2015 to overturn his conviction. To the surprise of many, the Michigan Supreme Court heard Theodore's case and actually vacated his manslaughter conviction. In Michigan, the second-degree murder statute requires that the defendant acted with malice, whereas the manslaughter charge implies that the defendant didn't. Seeing the contradiction in these convictions, the court determined that having both convictions was a violation of Theodore's rights. With one of his convictions vacated, there was a slight chance that Theodore could come out of this with a shorter sentence. However, at his resentencing on June 22, 2022, the judge stated there were strong reasons for Theodore's original sentencing and gave him 15 to 30 years for second-degree murder. While he may no longer have the manslaughter conviction, ultimately Theodore will serve the same amount of time behind bars.